Okay, talking about the conservation, it's not the part 3 of this topic. Totally, we have 4 parts. Okay, but in this note, you only have the 3 because another part is the in practicals. Okay, so now what we're going to learn for today, we're going to look at this, discuss the threats, okay, to the biodiversity, both to aquatics and terrestrial ecosystem, aquatic and also terrestrial ecosystem. And we want to use an example to explain the reason for controlling alien species. So why we need to control the alien species? Why this alien species? Now, be careful, guys. I mean, always when I talk about this alien species, students think, oh, aliens. No, alien species basically not native to that particular ecosystem. By right, this particular species, okay, shouldn't appear in that particular environment or a particular ecosystem, but suddenly they appear. Due to what they appear? So these kind of species, we call them as alien species, and most of these alien species, they are invasive alien species. So invasive basically means that they're going to cause the problem to the biodiversity. Okay, now explain why organisms become extinct. Okay, in this case, extinctions take place, which reference to the climate change, competition, habitat loss, and killing by the humans. Okay, so in this case, we look at a particular organism, why they become extinct, due to what? Okay, these are basically what we're going to do it for today, and the subsequent lessons we're going to look at this and discuss the methods one want to protect the endangered species. Okay, what are the way we can protect? Reference to the use of the zoo, botanic garden, conserved areas such as national parks and marine park, frozen zoo, as well as the seed bank. Then we're going to look at each of them. And also we'll look at these for mammals, endangered mammal particularly. We're going to look at what are the methods can help in the reproduction, what we call assisted reproduction, such as IVF, embryo transfer, surrogacy, and also okay, these are frozen zoo, okay, used in the conservations of the endangered mammal. Okay, and next, so a lot of times we want to conserve the animal, we want to release them back to the habitat, but the habitat already degraded. So how we can actually restore the degraded habitats? Okay, for example, tree replantations. Okay, and we also want to look at these NGO, non-governmental organizations such as WWF, and also the sites in local and global conservations. We look at what are their efforts. And sometimes our conservations is too too success, overpopulations, or sometimes non-protected species, they grow too much. Okay, so what are the methods that we can control the overpopulations of the protected and non-protected species? So this will be our topics under our subtopics under conservations. Okay, so for today we're going to look at the threat to biodiversity. We have 5 of them. Okay, so no matter aquatics or terrestrial ecosystem, we have 5 of them. First, we talk about habitat loss and degradations of the ecosystem, or we call it environments, habitats, and we look at the climate change, and also excessive use of fertilizer, and also the domestic and industrial pollution, over exploitations and unsustainable use of resources, and also invasive alien species. So these are 5 major threats. Okay, we still have other, but these are the 5 major ones. Okay, 5 major ones. So we first look at these habitat loss and degradations. Basically, we destruction of natural environments, okay, leads to habitat loss. So it may due to what? Deforestation. Deforestations. Okay, so for what? For agriculture, for housing, transport, leisure facility, industry, by removing the vegetations. So this is one of the conditions. If you compare, it's not far away from us. It's just at the Borneo Islands, where you can compare in 1973 to 2015. So you can compare, okay, the green areas denotes the forest, but now you can see a decrease in terms of these are tropical rainforests for the oil palms, okay, for the oil palm plantations. Okay, so and also sometimes you may see that many species of plants either lost their habitat completely, or their habitat become divided into the small area what we call habitat fragmentation. So what is the problem when we talk about habitat fragmentation? When we say the habitat fragmentations, for example, if let's say this is original habitat, So they are free to move. When they are free to move, so means that easier for them to find a mate. Second, also, there is a constant gene flow. So it can maintain the biodiversity, maintain what? Genetic diversity. But if the fragmented area already, let's say we build a route across the jungle and there is a forest. So what will happen here is, so area becomes small. What is the consequence here when area becomes small? First, food supply. Second, mate, how difficult for them to find a mate, and because the number of, individuals smaller, because in this case number of individuals smaller, so they may have the inbreeding. Can you see that? Right, that is the consequence from the habitat fragmentations. Okay, so generally in Southeast Asia, Africa, Amazonia, Central America have now been cut down and replaced with the cattle and also the plantations, again, the oil palms. So deforestation is a primary threat to orangutans. So one example here, which are native to the tropical rainforest of Indonesia and Malaysia. So this is one of the footage showing that orangutan actually defending his home seems light, okay, but we do not know. But this is very, very sad in this case, okay, because of deforestation in the Borneo Islands, okay. And also deforestation can lead to the severe land degradation as a result of soil erosions, so further reduce the areas of the habitats. So to tackle the problem and to tackle the problems of these, what we call the habitat fragmentations, one of the way they build what we call the eco bridge. Okay, so in some country like Singapore, Canada, or USA, because no choice in terms of the development, we need to build a highway, we need to build the infrastructures, okay, for the trades, for the economy. We don't have choice, but what we can do actually between two fragmented habitats, we can use this what we call the eco bridge or eco duct, allowing the organism or the animal to move, okay, across. So this wildlife bridge aims to enhance the biodiversity. So overpass they allow the animal to cross a route without any danger. Okay, so the picture here shows the ecological bridge or eco bridge in Singapore, which conduct the Bukit Timah Natural Reserve with the Central Catchment Natural Reserve. We have no choice, but with this eco bridge, they can reduce the impacts of the degradations, okay, or habitat degradations. Okay, this is the first one. So the second threat will be the climate change. In this case, particularly we talk about the greenhouse gases, okay, leads to the climate change. Again, nowadays we do know that global warming takes place. So what happened here is when talk about global warming, okay, so at the equator regions, okay, the temperature is high, so some of the animals now start to migrate to north or to south. So what will happen here is they become the invasive alien species. That's one of the possible, okay, or second, they will compete with the native species for the food resources, okay. So therefore, global warmings, okay, organisms expect to migrate to the north or south to the cooler latitudes, okay. So there will be competitions between the migrating organism and a species in the existing community. At the same time, also migratory species also can transport or introduce the disease, okay, from their original habitats, okay. Because of the global warming also, the marine migration also take place. So some marine species have been observed to migrate up to 600 miles away where they live. So in the study in 2014, found 802 species are commercially imported fish. Okay, they actually migrate to the north. And because of this, the whale also migrating further north, following the krill into the dangerous St. Lawrence shipping lane. Now, what happened in this case is, the krill is the food source for the whale. So because the krill migrates, okay, and then whale follow. But the problem is the whale now enter into the shipping lanes, okay, and then collisions take place, okay, they hit by the ship, okay, for the whale. On another impacts, okay, for the global warming, definitely the habitat disruptions. So you can see that the picture showing that the polar bear, okay, the starving polar bear, and also the polar bear that wander through the Russian city due to the habitat disruptions. And now there you can see that some agricultural lands in Malaysia, you have what we call it, the elephants, okay, come and destroy the plants because why? They find foods, okay, the loss of their habitat, so they're going to disrupt the plantation area, okay. So global warming also caused the coral bleaching. What's mean coral bleaching? You can see that in this case, this is the one that fire coral in the Great Barrier Reef. Now, can you see that bleaching take place? They die already, become turned into the white color. Okay, so this is the event we call the coral bleaching. So why? Because the coral very sensitive to the temperature increase. Okay, so it means that when it increases the temperature, then the algae that live inside the polyp tend to leave the coral if the temperature remain high. Okay, so cause the coral turn white and result the death of the coral. So this event we call them as a coral bleaching. Okay, so the rise of the sea level associated with the global warming will affect the coastal ecosystem as well, particularly because of the rise of the sea level. So it has a huge impact on the low-lying coastal and intertidal habitats. Okay, so the loss of important nesting site also result from this sea level increase in the sea level. Okay, so these are the second threats, okay, and we come to the third one. We talk about pollution and excessive use of the fertilizer. So what are the items that what are the pollutants? For example, heavy metal, PCB, polychlorinated biphenyl, pesticides, non-biodegradable plastic, sulfur dioxide are those pollutions, okay? So what are the main problem here is because of the bioaccumulations and also biomagnification. So what's in bioaccumulation? So it's a gradual accumulation of chemicals such as pesticide in an organism, particularly in the aquatic ecosystem, because those pesticides may follow the drainage system, it may follow the river, enter into the lake or enter into the ocean. So what will happen here is bioaccumulation occurs when organisms absorb the substances at a rate faster than they can excrete out. And for example, certain heavy metal, they tend to stay in our body for long period of times. And because of this bioaccumulation, it will result in what we call the biomagnification. So every time when we take in the food, okay, or in the food chain, you can see that there is a magnification of the concentration of toxin because we don't eat one. You try to imagine in the seawater, this is the concentrations, and then because of the plant plankton take in the water that contain the pollution of PCB, in this case, you can see that concentration increase, and then continue animal plankton, starfish, and fishes. You can see that when you go up these food chains, then you can see the concentration actually increase because you can see that they don't eat one, they eat many of them. So therefore, you can see that there is an accumulations. Okay. So plastic is one of the problem here is because fish, seabirds, sea turtle may entangle, okay, or ingest the plastic debris. Okay, so why, I mean, you may think that why plastic compared to the jellyfish, very particularly sea turtle actually mistaken the plastic, okay, for its jellyfish. Sometimes we see that plastic, how come, I mean, they do not how come they can't differentiate it? Okay, particularly research now found out that okay, about 52% of the world turtle have eaten plastic waste. And why? Because the plastic in ocean become colonized by the algae and the microscopic ocean life. So you have this what we call the biofouling process take place. What is biofouling? Because of this microorganism live or stay on the plastic, it make the plastic, okay, smell, okay, like the jellyfish. Are you clear? Mistaken it because the smells, okay. So you try to, I mean, like fool the turtle. The turtle cannot differentiate now because of this bacteria that stay, and also the algae that stay onto this marine conditions plastic debris. Okay. So also some non-biodegradable plastics, okay, on the wildlife, you can see that's the net, okay, plastic bag, okay, can you see that? So those are the impacts. So this autopsy done onto these seabirds, you can see that, okay, so much of the plastics, okay. And nowadays we also talk about this microplastic, okay, in the marine ecosystem. So now we ban the plastic, we ban the straw, okay, but the most important thing, we have to find a way to remove those waste from the marine ecosystem. Okay, now overuse of the fertilizer is another problem. Okay? Overuse of the fertilizer is another problem because of the process called eutrophication. So what's mean eutrophication? So on lands, okay, on the lands, we do use the fertilizer. So overuse of a fertilizer, it may cause, because we do know that fertilizer, they are ammonium nitrates. So this ammonium nitrate, they are water soluble, they'll follow the underground water, and then they will have the leaching process. Where they leach into the lake. Okay, so what happened here is because the fertilizer, okay, provides a nutrient, it will cause the algae bloom here. So what does it mean algae bloom? The algae start to grow because they absorb the nutrients, right? So what will happen here, algae will form a layer to cover, okay, to cover the surface. So means the sunlight will have no chance to enter or penetrate through. And what happened here is the the aquatic plants won't be able to carry out photosynthesis and they die. Can you see that? And overgrowth of the algae, some of the algae may die also. So what will happen here is decompositions of the aquatic plants and the algae done by the bacteria. So what happened here is the bacteria overgrow. Okay, overpopulations of the bacteria mop out all the oxygens in the lake. So what happened to the fishes? So the fishes won't be able to get sufficient oxygen and they die. So this is what we say that eutrophication take place. Okay, so when a fish died, then even worse because decomposition of the fish, again, you're going to have more bacteria. So this bacteria are going to pick up the oxygens. Okay, so once again, eutrophication is not in our syllabus. What you need to know, just need to know the name, like eutrophications. But I don't want you guys to memorize what's eutrophication. But eutrophication basically means that overuse of the fertilizer. So the fertilizer follow, okay, the underground water system and enter into the lake ecosystem. So because of the algae, so we can see that overgrowth of the algae. Because of this fertilizer, there is overgrowth of the algae. So this algae actually going to cover up the surface and stop the sunlight from penetrating into the water and reach the aquatic plants. So what will happen? Aquatic plants cannot carry out the photosynthesis, therefore they will die. So, and also algae overgrow, you can see that when they overgrow, some of the algae will die as well. So the algae and the dead algae and also the dead plants decompose by the bacteria, and these bacteria are going to use up the oxygens in the lake. So therefore, it will cause other aquatic creatures that depend on oxygen won't be able to survive. Okay, so eutrophication. So you can try this question, questions, and then you can check your answer. Okay. So next, pollutions of in the air. Just now we talk about terrestrial, we talk about aquatics. Now how about the air? Yes, the pollutions, the pollutant that released to the air, for example, sulfur dioxide will cause the acid rains. Okay, and combustion of the fossil fuel. I mean, in the industrial, release the CO2 and the methane gas. Both of them also they are greenhouse gases. So it means that they further cause the climate change, okay, in this atmosphere. Okay, so we come to the fourth one. We talk about over exploitation and unsustainable use of resources. It means basically what's mean over exploitation means that we use it, okay, in higher rates. Okay, particularly we want it for the wild medicinal plants, fish stock, forests, and water or aquatic organism that we use it. When we use it at a point that we won't be able to gain them back, okay? So it means that we harvest the natural resources to a point of diminishing returns. So continued overexploitation can lead to destructions of the resources. For example, you can see that the Atlantic cod stocks were severely overexploited in 1970 and 1980s leading to the abrupt collapse in 1992. So in 1992 onwards, you can see that the number is too low and you need to take so long, to build back the populations, okay? So forest overexploitation, when they are logged at a faster rate than reforestation, can take place. So logging activity in the Borneo Islands against, okay, cause the destruction or destructions of the habitats, okay? The last one we talk about invasive alien species. So what's been alien or invasive species? The definition is the organism that have moved from one ecosystem to another where they are previously unknown. So most of the time it's because of the trading of the animal or plant, or by we carry them on ship when we actually travel from one region to another region. So one other example happened in these Christmas Islands, okay, Christmas Islands in the first half of 20th century. By shipping accidentally introduced this what we call the yellow crazy ant. Now, what's so special about these crabs? Okay, these red crabs, in these Christmas Islands, we have this phenomenon, a very, very special phenomenon. These crabs actually survive inside the forest. Okay, they survive inside the forest. So the islands here, so they survive inside the forest. What will happen here is during the mating season or reproductive season, they will migrate from the forest to the coastal regions there, right, to lay egg. So what will happen here is when they migrate here, they will meet with this invasive species called yellow crazy ant. Okay, so these yellow crazy ants will kill most of them. They will kill most of them. Okay, during the migrations. Okay, so the yellow crazy ant has significant destruction impact on the island's ecosystem, killing and displacing the crabs on the forest floor. These have been seen that there are rapid depletions of the number of land crabs or red crabs, which vital the Christmas Islands biodiversity. Okay, can you see that? Introductions of the invasive species. Some have been introduced as a biological control. So basically, we want to control certain pests. Okay, but when we introduce, for example, the cane toads, was introduced to the Queensland in Australia from Hawaii in 1935 to control insect pests. But now the cane toads become a pest now. Okay, so because they produce a very powerful toxins. Okay, so the species known to most at risk from invasion of the cane toads is the northern crows. Okay, which try to eat the toads. So in this case, they will be killed by the toxin. Sometimes the alien species escape, okay, or the animal introduced as a pet. Okay, for example, the pythons, okay, have invaded the national park because of the pet owner found that they could not look after and release them into the wild. So in this case, it made it difficult in conserve the endangered species in the national park because the pythons, they are the top, or we call this the predator, the predator. They may kill certain endangered species in the national parks. Okay. So another example, invasive alien species, the red lionfish, which is native to the Sea of Southeast Asia, but now escaped from the aquarium in the United States. So therefore, now we can see them through the Caribbean eating, okay, through many local species and coral reef, and they do not have a natural predator at all in their new environment. So they continue to survive, and therefore they're going to disrupt the ecosystem at that particular region where they are the invasive species. So what are the reasons I highlight this? Why we want to actually control the invasive alien species? Because we do know that they may compete effectively with the native organism that occupy the same niche, pushing them to the extinctions. So they may outcompete the native species simply by reducing the space where they can grow. They may also introduce a disease that spread to the similar organism that have never been exposed to the pathogen. So some invasive species grow so successfully that cover the huge area of lands of the water, Okay, one of the example is these plants. They are floating aquatic plants that rapidly spreads and introduce to the new habitats. Okay, some invasive plant species may damage the building, roots and wall. For example, the Japanese knotweeds, okay, has a very vigorous root system. So they may grow so strong and force its way through the concrete and damage the building as well as the root. Okay, so what we're going to look at is on Thursday. Okay, let me stop it.